Here we go. Welcome to episode 38 of the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. Welcome back for those who have tuned in week over week. We're ready to go this week with a lot of action in the world of sports. You can join and follow the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2, and that's on X, aka Twitter. So follow us, give us your thoughts, because I give you my thoughts on picks, opinions. We'd like you to join, so go ahead, follow. Also on Facebook and Instagram at Overrated Experience. You can also catch us there. But we have more of a presence on Twitter, I would say, more than anywhere else. And if you haven't joined us before, this is a sports betting podcast that talks about, obviously, sports betting from a square perspective, meaning I'm like you. I like to have fun betting sports and also make the mistake of having, my part or want to see things happen, get in the way of good judgment. But I think that's going to turn around this week. And also the top-rated sports news coverage here. And you'll understand this week when I touch base on a few items in relation to the world of sports outside of betting. And that is pretty much it. And we're going to kick it off here in episode 38. And I'm going to say, just right off the bat, is hockey betting. Look, I think I'm going to decide that the NHL, to me, is more of a fun betting. I can't see anybody consistently making money on the NHL. It's too all over the place. Very challenging to kind of handicap over-unders. I'm an over-under fiend. I like the overs. And there's times where you think you got an over-under locked in and then goals dry up. And or you got an under locked in and things just go haywire. So NHL, not too sure if it's the way to go from trying to make money perspective. Fun, sure, but from making money, not too interested in continuing doing that. And so beyond that, what am I doing right now? Watching the Sacramento Kings take on the Golden State Warriors. Did not pull the trigger on the Sacramento Kings, who are a 2.5-point favorite. Thought that was low because Golden State now sucks balls. Golden State is not even close what they used to be. Golden State's down 2. Geez, I thought that would have made more of a impact to the audience here because they were, I think, up by 8 or 9, and it looks like Golden State went on a run. So maybe I've got ahead of myself. Anyway, the Overrated Experience will probably only have one podcast this week. We're going to obviously have some big games, important games, down to 3 NFL games left. And the NFL is going to be our focal point when it comes to the betting aspect. And then you'll see us obviously have to get out of our comfort zone since September in the NFL and get into the world of NBA, NHL, golf, and other sports. So we'll kick it off with some news and notes in the world of sports. One of the major storylines coming out of the NBA was the Milwaukee Bucks firing Adrian Griffin after a 30-13 start, second overall in the NBA, second overall in the Eastern Conference. But yet, they decided to move away from Griffin, which I'm shaking my head to understand what possibly happened to look at a 30-13 record and say, hey, we're not going in the direction we want to go to. I know defensively they've fallen off, but that's, they made the move for Lillard to eat up major minutes, and defensively that's not his thing. So very shocking here, and there's really no story that I can see that talks about this, Giannis have an issue. Well, I'm going to let you listen to his comments when asked about that.
I love the guy. I invited him to my wedding. I talked with him. I was coached by him, and we did very, very, very well.
So, Giannis seems like he's surprised. The comments that he invited him to his wedding, got along with him. I'm trying to figure, am I reading between the lines here? Is in between the lines that, Giannis is a very intelligent basketball player, very intelligent guy. And I think he's seeing big picture for the Milwaukee Bucks, and they're only goal here is to win another ring, get to a championship, win a championship. And I'm wondering if you read between the lines, did he provide feedback to the organization that maybe he got word that Doc Rivers is available and this would, take them to that next level? And that's what happened, by the way. It looks like a deal's been made with Doc Rivers, former, coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, Boston Celtics, LA Clippers, a lot of experience. And they're hitching their wagon to Doc Rivers to take him to the Holy Land. I don't understand it. This is still a confusing move. You fire a coach after a 30-13 record. And Doc Rivers, what is his, background? He won a ring in Boston, but he, in the last, 10 years, can't get over the hump. Why did Philadelphia move on? He couldn't take that team to a final. They couldn't get past Boston. So I don't know what the story is, because guess who Milwaukee's going to have to go to? Boston. And who's Doc not been able to go through? Boston. So I don't understand the matchup. I don't understand the marriage. So this is an interesting change, but a big move when it comes to the world of basketball. And in another NBA-esque type story, the USA basketball program has decided to not take Draymond Green to Paris for the 2024 Summer Olympics and the USA basketball team, citing his suspensions as the root cause, which I call bullshit. I think the fact that he's on the decline is the root cause. And we're starting to see where, any Golden State Warrior in the next few years is going to start kind of being on the outs of all these things, including potentially USA basketball, all-star appearances, awards. So we're seeing the decline in the great Warriors of the early 2000s or the early 2010s. What do you call that? I have no idea. The 2010s? I have no idea. But Draymond Green, he is, because of his suspensions, is not going to join the U.S. team. It's not that there's a million other better basketball players than he is, and he's not over the hill, because that's what it really is. But no Draymond Green, if you were expecting it, in this summer's Olympics for Team USA. Tough news, Hockey Canada. Looks like their 2018 junior team, many of which are NHLers today, impactful NHLers. Some are playing in Europe. 5 members of this team are being called back to a London, Ontario courtroom to surrender within the next week or so, I believe, as it's thought they'll be brought up on charges of sexual assault that happened during that tournament, brought forth by, obviously, the London police. So that story is developing. Interesting that the NHL and teams tend to get in their own way of the way stuff like this is dealt with. And I'm not a lawyer. I don't know exactly necessarily the best way to deal with this, but I got to believe there is some way where you can stay neutral, I guess, from a business perspective, but at the same time, kind of give the message that anybody who's actually found guilty of a sexual assault, they should, be held accountable, and it's not acceptable. But an interesting statement by the Calgary Flames, because many teams are doing this out of the 5, letting these guys leave the team and, under, as a leave of absence. So the Flames, Dylan Dubé, they put out a statement stating Dylan Dubé has been granted an indefinite leave of absence from the team while he attends to his mental health. Dylan is under the care of health professionals, and we request that Dylan's privacy is respected during this period. Now, if Dylan Dubé, which I believe is the captain of this team, is named in this situation as one of the 5, and for the Flames to put out a statement like that, and he is, confirmed as one of the 5, seems rather strange and probably not shedding the franchise in the NHL in a positive light. So I shake my head on how the NHL positions these situations and handles them publicly. I just got to believe different words might even work better. Just continue to shoot themselves in the foot, to be honest, the way the NHL handles these off-the-ice situations. And more, it's leading me to believe that I've said it many times is I think it's time for a shakeup in NHL leadership, and it's time for a new captain as commissioner. So we'll see how this develops, but interesting story nonetheless, and unfortunate story, but we'll see how it goes. Speaking of interesting stories, and if you heard this story about Vince McMahon, it's Royal Rumble time. And if you don't know the Royal Rumble, it's probably next to WrestleMania, the top WWE pay-per-view, or AKA WWE Network here in Canada. But 30, we'll find out who's main eventing WrestleMania tomorrow on Saturday night. But Vince McMahon has a lawsuit heading his way from somebody accusing him, another accuser, of bringing them on the payroll in the WWE and doing some not so nice things. So Vince McMahon is in a bit of hot water. Probably embarrassing story. I'll leave it to you to read the details of the statement by the accuser. And odd. I hope Vince is not into this stuff that especially she accused him of. But read it for yourself, see what you think. But interesting story nonetheless. Now we get to the world of football. And I came across this story. It's breaking. I think we're going to learn more as time goes on this one. But New England Patriots receiver, wide receiver Keyshawn Bote was arrested Thursday on charges related to illegal online gaming while he was underage and played at the Louisiana State LSU, authorities say. Now, this reports from the Associated Press. I'm getting you through the Score app. If you take a look at this, it's accusing him as a 17-year-old falsifying his identity to bet on, events and gamble, and using his mom's credit card to make over 8,900 illegal bets, and some of which were as a member of the LSU football team, betting on himself that he would score a touchdown. There's a whole lot of stuff here. But what stands out to me is investigators said the efforts led to more than $500,000 in winnings, which with most of that money being used to place additional bets. Bote is now 21, is currently listed on the Patriots roster. He's played in 5 games last season. He's currently surrendered to authorities. Just crazy story. He deposited over $132,000 into the account. Won over $556,000, like I stated earlier, but only withdrew $50,000 and change. So, wild story. Gambling is legal in the U.S., but some of the messages being lost on what the do's and don'ts are on some of our college and professional athletes. So, more to come on that. I'm pretty sure he'll never play in the NFL again or have a lengthy suspension. And they'll probably make an example of him for sure. Now, kind of spin into the world of football. All right, a lot of things going on here. So we obviously came off the divisional round last weekend. The big game was Kansas City, Buffalo. Could Buffalo get the job done? There was a lot of hype that as 2.5-point favorites, that the Bills would, knock off the Chiefs, who are playing their first playoff road game. And I think what we learned now is anytime, and that includes this week and coming up, when you see Patrick Mahomes as a dog and you see plus money, there is absolutely zero wrong in taking the Chiefs when Patty Mahomes is your QB. I don't care what the offense looked like in the regular season. Patrick Mahomes stands on a level by himself. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. He's a winner. He finds ways to win, and he simply proved it. What is his 6th straight AFC championships he's going to be playing in? Trying to get to back-to-back Super Bowls. They head into Baltimore, but the story that stands out to me is, Josh Allen is obviously taking a beating. Last year losing early in the playoffs to Joe Burrow at home. Finally get the Chiefs at home and lose. And a lot of commentary made on Josh Allen not being an elite quarterback. Anybody who says Josh Allen's not an elite quarterback, you're a moron. Outside of Patrick Mahomes and debate, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, simply, he's still one of the top 5 best quarterbacks that any team in the NFL, outside of the ones I just talked about that have those elite quarterbacks, would give the right arm to have a Josh Allen. For anybody to question that he is not an elite quarterback, a superstar quarterback, you're a moron. Let's see what he does over his career, okay? If you look at this game alone, what's going to be looked at is obviously the Bills lost, and that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, that's it. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs won, and that's what counts. They're going to look back at that field goal by Bass, totally botched. But nobody's going to remember that rocket that Josh Allen launched on that same drive that went through Stephon Diggs' hands, the 25, 20-yard line of the Chiefs, that would have made an absolute huge difference and maybe would have put the Bills in the end zone. And, the Chiefs would have had to been chasing 4 instead of hitting that field goal and looking for the win, which would have significantly changed things. The NFL is based on, especially a playoff run is based on certain breaks. It's not just the spectacular play and the great play of a quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes. There are breaks and things that happen. The break that the Chiefs got was Stephon Diggs couldn't haul that in. The break that the Bills had to be in that situation was a fumble through the end zone. Those are all significant game-changing opportunities that, determine outcomes of football games. But for any idiot out there to say that Josh Allen is not a superstar quarterback, you're a moron. Idiot. And if you're sitting around a desk on TV and you collect a paycheck and try to have a hot take to say that, you're an idiot. And if you're going into 2024-25 or 2024-25 season next year, and you don't think that Josh Allen is still a top 3, top 4 quarterback that any team would take, you're a moron. So that's it. Patrick Mahomes is the top of the pyramid. Lamar Jackson has a chance right now for his spot in the NFL, that maybe he moves to number 2 if he knocks off Mahomes, because even if he knocks off Mahomes, Mahomes is number 1. Okay? He's number 1, and that ain't changing. So we'll check that out. We'll talk more about those games a little later. A lot of movement in the coaching ranks in the NFL. Some surprising of the moves maybe that were not made. But the big move that was made is that the LA Chargers have got their guy, Jim Harbaugh, national champion with the Michigan Wolverines, back in the NFL. If you don't remember, he was with the 49ers, taking the 49ers to the Super Bowl that lost against his brother John Harbaugh. But he's back. Chargers paying big money, making a commitment to John Harbaugh. And, promises had to be made. Promises had to be made. That John Harbaugh was in the driver's seat, that Michigan was a blank check away from bringing him back. And unless he got what the Chargers were willing to provide, he wasn't going to go there. So he's got full control, probably full control over his staff, any player movement whatsoever. He's got guarantees out of the ass, that he's got a window of time. They have obviously a quarterback that can reach new levels in Justin Herbert, and Jim Harbaugh's a great coach for that situation. They're going to run through salary cap hell probably, where they may have to get rid of talent that you see on this roster already. But I think with the guarantees and the ability for Jim Harbaugh to scout talent. I think they'll overcome that and be in a better position, or at least be on the right road compared to where they were going under Staley. So Chargers are set, and we'll see how that goes. And you know what? They're actually be interesting because the Chargers and Ravens do match up. And if the Ravens do win the Super Bowl, that might be the first matchup on the first Thursday night, the Harbaugh Bowl. Chargers versus Ravens. We'll see. And we got the Falcons. Speaking of a move that didn't happen, Bill Belichick is not going to be coaching the Atlanta Falcons. So the Falcons looked to be the leaders, to have Bill Belichick, the great Bill Belichick, 6-time Super Bowl head coach of the New England Patriots, take over the Atlanta Falcons. And then surprise, Raheem Morris, defensive coordinator, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer coach, is the new HC of the Atlanta Falcons. Amazing development there. So obviously, it looks like the Falcons were more comfortable bringing Raheem Morris in. You have to bet that Bill Belichick had quite a few demands. So as I talked about, John Harbaugh was probably telling them exactly what to put on the check, put in the contract, what control he has, and they allowed it. And it looks like the Falcons probably something triggered them to not want to give the full set of keys to Billy B. Now, I do understand that why that's, that was going to happen. If you look at Bill Belichick's track record, if the ask was to take on player, personnel moves, I'm glad to see the Falcons go a different way. Probably a mistake. However, the Falcons are still in a situation where what is their quarterback situation going to be? What's the plan there? Have they given Raheem Morris empowerment to make player decisions? He's a defensive coordinator versus Arthur Smith, who was an offensive guru. We'll see what happens in Atlanta. Are they going somewhere? Are they going up? Or are they just kind of toeing the line to what they've already been doing? We're going to see there. The Titans sign as head coach Brian Callahan, offensive coordinator in Cincinnati, moves out there. Kind of a low-key hiring out of nowhere that I didn't see coming. Carolina Panthers hired Dave Canales. He is the Tampa Bay offensive coordinator, or was. I guess the thought there is that he'll be able to mentor Bryce Young as he worked with Geno Smith as quarterbacks coach in Seattle when Geno Smith was comeback player of the year. So that's probably the goal there. However, the Panthers situation, I don't know what, this is probably the job I look at as the least flexibility or least freedom to make any key decisions with ownership approval. So Antonio Pierce has kept, and now the intertag is gone, and he is officially the head coach of the Raiders. Obviously, the players are going to love that there. And Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel are jobless. So expect them to pop up on whether it be Prime, Fox, CBS, and get paid big money, which is probably the smarter move to take a step back. And somebody will become crying to you, whether it be mid-season. Most likely I see Vrabel do mid-season. I can't see Bill Belichick necessarily jumping in. But you see what happened with the Broncos when they brought in Nathaniel Hackett, and that went south 2 years ago, and Sean Payton was able to write his own ticket to go to Denver. That's going to happen again, and most likely one of these guys is going to land up in Dallas with the Cowboys. All right, so we go on to what is happening this weekend. Well, we got the AFC Championship that kicks it off on Sunday, and then the NFC follows. So the AFC, we got the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions of the world, taking on the number one contender, number one seed AFC contender of the Baltimore Ravens. And we're going to see a heavyweight battle. The Kansas City Chiefs take their second playoff, or at least Patrick Mahomes' second road playoff game. And we'll see if he has the same luck he did in Buffalo, but he makes his own luck, of course. The odds are 3.5 points for the Ravens as our favorites. I just want to bring up something here I thought was interesting. Now, before we move on to this game and break it down, We have each book you have is already, giving you lines, or most should give you lines of the potential Super Bowl matchups. So for Kansas City, a Detroit-Baltimore matchup, FanDuel already has Baltimore's 4.5-point favorites. If it winds up Detroit-Kansas City, they have Kansas City as a 3.5-point favorite. San Fran, Baltimore, a 1.5-point favorite. And if it winds up San Fran, Kansas City, and then the 49ers are already pegged as a 3-point favorite. Very interesting. I don't know if you agree or not with those lines, but you want to make a bet, you can make a bet. But going into this game, I just talked about this. They walked into Buffalo, the Chiefs did. They took care of business. The game is close. And you're going to walk into this game, and Baltimore, had an impressive showing against Houston, but that's Houston. It's not Kansas City. And you're going to give me 3.5 points. I'll take the Chiefs, and also think about sprinkling some money on the money line. Over under 44.5. Wow, I got to believe it's going over. Got to believe it's going over. The Bills, Chiefs went over. The Ravens scored a lot of points. Obviously, the Chiefs defense is on fire right now. But I don't think it's going to slow down Lamar that much and the Ravens offense. I think they're going to put up some points. They're going to go back and forth. But I think the Chiefs will squeeze this out. So all-out winner, I'm going to take the Chiefs. But I'll take that 3.5-point cushion for sure. On the prop side of things, Patty Mahomes, 243.5 passing yards. He only threw for 215 last week. So what do we do here? I got to believe that the Mahomes side of the offense is going to have to go to the air a lot more. So 243.5, I'm going to take the over. Lamar Jackson, over under rushing yards, 66.5 against his KCD. I know it's a little harder, a little more of a challenge here. He rushed for 100 yards against the Houston D, but give me Lamar anytime below 70 yards, 66.5. Take the over. Baltimore quarterback again, Lamar Jackson. 25 yards each quarter rushing at plus 130. I'll take it. And Travis Kelce to have 25 yards in each half. I bet this last week. He screwed me in the second half. However, I do see Kansas City maybe playing catch up to the end. And Kelce's got to be in this. No problem. Detroit, San Francisco. What do we do here? 7-point favorite are those 49ers. Almost went down at the hands of Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. They squeaked it out, barely. Mistakes on Green Bay's side, most likely the bigger reason why San Francisco is still alive. So have they learned their lesson? Are they going to come out flying here? The Lions are not pushovers. I mean, they got a lot to be desired on D right now. And there's an opportunity for San Francisco to walk all over them. But we do have a situation where Deebo Samuel looks like he's going to play, but he's going to be banged up. The Lions, can put some points on the board, and they can pass rush Brock Purdy, and will Purdy fold under pressure? Everybody's ripping on Brock Purdy, comparing him to the other first-round draft pick quarterbacks that are left in these playoffs, and now this is his time to shine. Can he make it shine? Well, I'll tell you right now, I think a 7-point favorite, I think it's a little too high. After what I've seen last week, I wasn't impressed with the 49ers, and I'm going to take the Lions to cover that 7 points. CMC, Christian McCaffrey, 86.5 yards rushing. I like it. I don't see Detroit really pushing back too much here. I think he covers that. Gets 90-plus yards, so we're good there. Here's an interesting one. Jameson Williams of the Lions, his long reception is 15.5 yards. Now, if you watch that Tampa game, they had a set of plays where they were going downfield, absolutely looking for big shots to Williamson. And I think we'll have a few plays where that's going to happen again on Sunday. Sunday, Williamson had 35 yards. So he had a long play of 24. So like I said, he only has a couple of receptions. He had 2 receptions for 35 yards. So they look for him deep downfield and to make a play happen. So I think 15.5, too low. Take the over. Brandon Ayuk over 8.5 yards with Deebo Samuel down. I got to believe that Brandon Ayuk is going to be more of a focal point than he already is. He's already a focal point in the 49er offense, but with less touches to throw around if Deebo's not feeling too well. Then I got to believe that Ayuk is going to get more than the 32 yards he had last week in that win over Green Bay. Jahmyr Gibbs, running back for the Detroit Lions, had a big weekend last weekend. I'm going to take his rushing yards over 73.5. I just think that he'll be a factor this weekend. And last against Tampa Bay, Jahmyr Gibbs had 74 yards rushing alone and had 40 yards in the air. I think he's going to be a go-to, a lot of checkdowns for Jared Goff, and a lot of big plays set up for Gibbs versus maybe the head-on collisions that Montgomery usually provides for the Lions. And last but not least, Christian McCaffrey, Gibbs combined for 150 yards rushing. Got a hunch. Gibbs at least 70, McCaffrey at least 90. That'll get you a plus 150 payout. I like it. I like it a lot. That's it for my picks, everybody. Thanks for joining the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. And remember, enjoy these two games because there's only one more after that, and there's 2 weeks gap between the two. And in between that, you got all-star games in the NHL, which just absolute garbage. I don't know why we waste our time with all-star games. And, a lot more action going on. Enjoy your weekend. Good luck. Take it all in. Take all that football action in. The pleasure's all been yours. The Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast is over and out. Join us on Twitter, Overrated Experience, Overrated EXPER2. Bye-bye.